I live in Taos, New Mexico, a town that feels like it's been pulled straight from a dream, where the desert meets the mountains, and the air hums with the quiet magic of ancient Native American traditions. The adobe buildings, weathered and sun-baked, stand stubbornly against endless blue skies streaked with wisps of white clouds. The scent of piñon pine and sagebrush drifts through the streets, mixing with the occasional clatter of horse hooves on dusty roads. At 31, I'm Jordan Reyes, a freelance AI data analyst, a title that sounds sleek and futuristic, but my daily life here is a mix of tech and solitude. My mornings start early, with the sun rising behind the Sangre de Cristo Mountains, casting a fiery glow over the desert floor. I sip my black coffee on the porch of my modest adobe home, wrapped in a thick scarf against the sharp morning chill, while watching hawks circle lazily above the rugged landscape. Work means long hours in my small home office, lit mostly by the flickering glow of multiple screens. I'm constantly juggling complex datasets, trying to make sense of patterns nobody else sees. It's a solitary job, a constant dance between machine logic and human intuition. Most days, I'm buried so deep in algorithms and neural nets that I forget the world outside, save for the occasional howl of a coyote or the rustle of wind through the junipers. But underneath the calm, there's always a restless edge. The quiet beauty of Taos hides a storm inside me, a mix of frustration, longing, and a fierce determination. I'm haunted by shadows from my past, by family betrayals that left scars deeper than I ever expected. Every analysis I run, every line of code I write, feels like a step toward reclaiming control over a life that was nearly ripped away from me. I've learned to live with the loneliness here, to find comfort in the rhythm of the desert, but there's always this fire inside, this burning need for justice, for payback, for something to tip the scales. And I'm ready. Ready to face the ghosts, to outsmart the ones who thought they could break me. This is my story. After 7 long years away, I never imagined coming back under these circumstances. The call came like a cold gust through the desert canyon. My father had passed. The news hit me harder than I expected. Taos had changed, but the ache of loss was universal. What stung most wasn't just his death, it was the silence that followed. No invitation to the will reading, no word from my stepmother or siblings. They didn't want me there. It was as if my existence had been erased from the family ledger, buried beneath years of resentment and bitterness. I remember standing in the shadow of his old adobe house, the sunset casting long fingers of orange and purple across the cracked earth. My suitcase felt heavier than ever, loaded with memories and questions I wasn't sure I wanted answered. The weight of being the outsider, the forgotten son, pressed down on me. Walking through the quiet streets, I replayed every argument, every cold goodbye, every lie whispered behind my back. I was the prodigal, the one who walked away, but the truth was far more complicated. I hadn't just left, I'd been pushed out. I wandered the familiar red rock streets of Taos, the crunch of gravel beneath my boots echoing the turmoil inside me. The sun was dipping low, casting long shadows over adobe walls and weathered wooden beams. The scent of sage and desert pine hung heavy in the dry air, a stark contrast to the coldness I felt creeping in my chest. Each step felt like walking through a memory, some warm, others sharp and jagged. I thought about the years spent building walls between me and the family I once knew. The quiet dinners where I was barely acknowledged, the casual glances that said I was already other. My stepmother's icy smile, my step-siblings' polite but distant nods, they made it clear I was no longer part of this world. The town felt smaller somehow, shrinking under the weight of secrets and unspoken grievances. I realized that the harsh beauty of these red rocks wasn't so different from my family, strong on the outside, but fractured and vulnerable beneath. As the twilight deepened, I clenched my fists, knowing that walking these streets was just the beginning. I had to confront not just my past, but the cold reality of the people who tried to erase me. This was no longer just about mourning a father, it was about standing up to a family that had turned its back on me. My stepfamily was as sharp and unyielding as the desert mesas surrounding Taos. Bianca, my stepmother, was a force of nature, a powerful real estate mogul who had carved out an empire with ruthless precision. She wasn't the kind of woman to tolerate loose ends or sentimental distractions, and she ruled her world with an iron fist wrapped in expensive silk. Then there were her children. Cassidy, my stepsister, was the poster child of social media fame, flashing smiles and millions of followers, masking a shallow hunger for attention. Her art was less about expression and more about spectacle, a carefully curated image designed to dazzle and distract. I'd seen her posts, the staged photos, the sponsored content, everything screamed, "Look at me," yet there was an emptiness behind her eyes that no filter could hide. And Damien, her brother, was the wild card, a genius hacker with a dark streak. Whispers in town hinted at his dangerous exploits, the kind that skated on the edge of the law. There was a coldness in his gaze, a calculating menace that sent chills down my spine. Where Bianca wielded power with charm, Damien's influence was shadowy and unpredictable. Together, they formed a fortress around my father's legacy, a fortress built on ambition, manipulation, and secrets. And as I walked those red rock streets, I knew the battle ahead wouldn't just be legal. It would be personal. Bianca's ambition was as vast as the New Mexico desert, but instead of nurturing the legacy my father had built, she aimed to reshape it entirely. Her vision was clear: a sprawling empire of luxury real estate, glittering high-rises, and exclusive resorts that would transform our modest hometown into a playground for the ultra-rich. She saw dollar signs where my father saw community, profit margins where he saw lasting impact. She was relentless in her pursuit, quietly consolidating power behind polished smiles and sharp negotiations. Every move she made was calculated, designed to edge out anyone who stood in her way, especially me. To her, the family estate wasn't a legacy to honor but a commodity to be flipped, packaged, and sold to the highest bidder. It was a bitter pill to swallow. The man who had spent decades investing in sustainable projects, supporting local businesses, and preserving the spirit of Taos would have been unrecognizable to Bianca's version of the future. And deep inside, I knew this was more than a business clash. It was a battle for the soul of everything my father had fought to protect. Cassidy, my stepsister, isn't just any social media artist. She's a digital storm, sweeping away everything I worked so hard to build in Taos. Her room is bathed in neon glow from countless screens, filled with meticulously crafted selfies, viral videos, and stories designed to captivate tens of thousands of followers. Every post is a strategic weapon aimed directly at me. Every time I scroll through my feeds, I see my name twisted into the story of a family deserter, an outsider unworthy of a place in this small town. The harsh comments from the virtual crowd pile up relentlessly, gnawing away at every connection I once forged. This loneliness isn't just about physical distance. It's the feeling of being cast aside by my own family, manipulated so skillfully by Cassidy. On the other side, Damien, my stepbrother, a born hacker with cold, calculating eyes, works in the shadows. His room is dark, lit only by the eerie blue light of multiple monitors, tangled cables resembling a spider's web of technology. He speaks little, but every keystroke feels like a bullet aimed at dismantling my efforts. Damien uses his secret skills to steal data, forge emails, and create fake profiles, all to damage my reputation within the community and among business partners. Each morning, I wake in my old house on the edge of town, surrounded by the red desert mountains glowing under the sunset. Yet, the vast sky feels more suffocating than ever. I struggle to hold onto my resolve, spending hours restoring projects, replying to emails, and coordinating video calls with clients and partners. But deep down, every cruel message, every malicious rumor strikes at my confidence and perseverance. I remember my father's words about willpower and resilience, never to back down no matter how the world turns its back on you. That flickering flame is what keeps me going when everything around me seems to collapse. The betrayal by my stepfamily isn't just a wound of abandonment. It's a challenge, a call to reclaim my identity, not as the son they refuse to see, but as a warrior ready to fight for what's rightfully mine. With each passing day, I realize this battle isn't merely about property or status. It's about survival, justice, and honor. I cannot let them rewrite my father's legacy into a lie, nor can I let a virtual mob steal my true voice. Anger, betrayal, determination, and cold calculation fuse inside me, forging a new strength that brings me closer to the day justice will be served. As days turned into weeks, the reality hit me harder than I ever expected. I was truly isolated within my own family. The people who should have been my allies, my blood, had turned their backs on me. This wasn't just neglect, it was a calculated betrayal. Bianca's cold ambition, Cassidy's relentless smear campaigns, and Damien's covert sabotage had created a wall between me and the family I once thought I belonged to. I found myself standing alone in rooms filled with memories, yet feeling more invisible than ever. The laughter and warmth I remembered were replaced by whispered rumors and guarded glances. I was the outsider, the problem they all whispered about but refused to confront openly. That loneliness cut deeper than any knife. It wasn't just about being excluded from meetings or denied access to my father's legacy. It was the unbearable ache of being erased from the story of my own life. Each night, when the desert silence wrapped around my home like a shroud, the weight of that solitude crushed me. But beneath the pain, a fierce clarity began to emerge. This wasn't just heartbreak, it was a betrayal that demanded justice. I refused to be the forgotten son, the discarded heir. The wounds of isolation became fuel, sharpening my resolve to fight back, not just for myself, but for the truth buried beneath layers of deception and greed. In that profound loneliness, I found an unyielding strength. Because sometimes, when the people you trust most turn against you, the only way forward is to become stronger than the forces trying to break you. One evening, while digging through some old files my father had left behind, I stumbled upon something that would change everything: a hidden video file and a series of encrypted messages between Bianca and someone named Sage. The name alone sent a chill down my spine. Sage wasn't just any lawyer. The way they spoke suggested a shadowy figure skilled in manipulation and legal sabotage. The video was a covertly recorded meeting where Bianca laid out a ruthless plan to systematically dismantle my reputation before the international investors who held the keys to our family's fortune. The goal was clear: make me look unreliable, unstable, and unfit to inherit anything. The messages that followed painted a darker picture. Bianca and Sage discussed planting false evidence, spreading rumors through social media influencers, and using every legal loophole to wrest control of the inheritance away from me. They planned to isolate me further, ensuring no ally could come to my defense. I remember sitting there, heart pounding, watching betrayal unravel before my eyes. This wasn't just a family feud anymore. It was a calculated, cold-blooded conspiracy to erase me from the life and legacy that was rightfully mine. But instead of breaking me, this revelation ignited a fire I hadn't felt in years. I wasn't going down without a fight. If they wanted a war, I'd make sure they remembered the name Jordan Reyes. As I dug deeper into those encrypted messages and the video, a startling truth began to surface. Bianca and Sage weren't just working in isolation. They were key players in a secretive and powerful organization, known only as the Obsidian Circle. This shadowy society had its fingers deep in the real estate markets across the southwestern United States, manipulating deals, orchestrating hostile takeovers, and crushing anyone who dared to stand in their way. The circle operated in whispers and shadows, controlling entire swaths of property through intimidation, corruption, and hidden alliances. Discovering their involvement sent shockwaves through me. Bianca's ambitions were far bigger and darker than I'd imagined. She wasn't just trying to take over our family's legacy. She was playing a dangerous game tied to this clandestine cabal that wielded enormous influence, and I was now their target. But with this knowledge came a sliver of hope. Exposing the Obsidian Circle meant dismantling the very foundation of their power, and I had the key to start unraveling their empire. It was a dangerous path, but one I knew I had to walk if I was ever going to reclaim what was mine and protect everything my father built. Realizing the depth of danger I was facing was like stepping off a familiar path and into a dark wilderness. This wasn't just a messy family feud or a bitter inheritance battle anymore. Bianca and Sage, backed by the Obsidian Circle, represented a threat far beyond the usual stakes. The Circle's reach was vast, capable of crushing reputations, ruining livelihoods, and manipulating entire markets without leaving a trace. This wasn't just about money or property. It was about power, control, and survival in a world where loyalty was a currency and betrayal a weapon. The weight of that knowledge hit me hard. I wasn't just fighting to reclaim a legacy. I was up against a ruthless network that didn't hesitate to destroy anyone who stood in its way. Fear mingled with a fierce determination inside me. I had to be smart, patient, and relentless. The stakes were higher than I ever imagined. Every move I made could expose me or bring me closer to justice. But backing down was not an option. This was about more than family now. It was about standing up to a hidden darkness and proving that no shadow could outlast the light of truth. As the day of the crucial online investment meeting dawned, the tension in the air was almost palpable. Outside my window, the desert sun cast long shadows over the rugged red rocks, a stark contrast to the storm brewing in my life. I had prepared endlessly for this moment, every slide, every data point meticulously refined. This project wasn't just a business venture, it was the future I was fighting to protect. But behind the scenes, Bianca was setting a far darker trap. She had secretly obtained a cutting-edge nano-sedative, undetectable, fast-acting, designed to incapacitate me without leaving any obvious trace. I never suspected that the coffee she brought me moments before the meeting wasn't the usual strong brew I relied on to fuel my focus. As I sat down at my desk, the familiar aroma of coffee filled the room, offering a brief sense of comfort amid chaos. But with that first sip, something felt off, not in taste, but in the subtle shift of my senses. My vision blurred just enough, my mind clouded imperceptibly. Bianca's plan was cruelly precise. Sabotage my presentation, undermine my credibility in front of the international investors, and clear the path for her own empire. Despite the growing fog in my brain, I fought to steady myself, clinging to the determination burning deep inside. I knew this was no ordinary family conflict. It was a calculated assault on everything I stood for, and I wasn't going down without a fight. After that unsettling day, a quiet storm began to brew inside me. The subtle haze I felt wasn't just a momentary lapse, it was a warning sign. Bianca's smile, too sweet, too calculated. The way Cassidy's posts seemed to spin narratives against me, and Damien's mysterious disappearances and sudden bursts of digital activity. It all pointed to something darker, something orchestrated. I started watching them discreetly, carefully, tracking their movements, their online footprints, their whispered phone calls. Every detail mattered. Every seemingly small act was a thread in a web of betrayal. At night, when the desert wind whispered through the canyon walls outside my window, I plotted. Not out of rage, but cold, methodical resolve. I would not be the victim of their schemes. I would reclaim what was mine, not with blind fury, but with the precision of a scalpel. I compiled everything: secret messages between Bianca and Sage, financial records showing suspicious transfers, and digital footprints revealing Damien's hacking attempts. I reached out to trusted allies in the legal and tech worlds, assembling a quiet but formidable team. This wasn't just about family anymore. It was a war for justice, legacy, and survival. And I was ready to fight it on my terms. Inside me, a storm raged that words could hardly capture. There was raw, burning anger at the betrayal so deep it cut through every fiber of my being. Bianca, Cassidy, Damien, they weren't just family, they were adversaries who had weaponized trust against me. But beneath that fire was an unyielding coldness, a calculated calm that settled over my thoughts like desert nightfall. I knew rage alone wouldn't win this fight. It was discipline, patience, and relentless focus that would tip the scales. Every ounce of my being was drawn inward, funneling into a singular purpose. To seize control, to reclaim what was stolen, to flip the script entirely. There was no room for doubt, no space for weakness. I was no longer just Jordan, the betrayed son, the sidelined heir. I was Jordan, the strategist, the tactician, the force that would dismantle their plans piece by piece. This was my reckoning, and I was ready to own it. The room where I worked was a small refuge, warm, cluttered with books, dual monitors casting a cool glow against the dimming twilight. It was a sanctuary of sorts, yet tonight it felt suffocating. The walls seemed to close in, as if mirroring the weight pressing down on my chest. Outside the window, the desert dusk bled into the horizon, soft purples and fiery oranges tangled with the relentless drizzle of dust-like rain. The faint, rhythmic tapping against the glass was a steady reminder of the world moving on, indifferent to my battles. A single desk lamp flickered slightly, casting long shadows over scattered notes and half-drunk cups of coffee, each a silent witness to the long hours spent planning my comeback. The air hung heavy with the scent of old paper and a hint of sage from a dried bundle in the corner, an echo of this land's mysticism, a reminder of roots deeper than this moment's chaos. Despite the warmth inside, a profound loneliness settled in the room. The isolation was almost tangible, pressing in as thickly as the desert dust outside. It was a fitting backdrop for the quiet storm brewing within me, determined, relentless, and ready to break through the darkness. As Bianca struggled, I took a deep breath and seized the moment. Sliding my chair forward, I steadied my voice and stepped into the spotlight that fate had suddenly placed on me. "Allow me to continue," I said smoothly, projecting confidence I didn't just feel but had painstakingly built over the years. Every slide, every data point, every projection had been drilled into me like a second language. This was my territory. I walked the investors through the project's vision with clarity and passion. I outlined the sustainable impact, the cutting-edge technology, and the careful financial models supporting the venture. My analysis wasn't just numbers. It was a story of transformation, responsibility, and long-term growth. Eyes that had grown wary during Bianca's faltering presentation now leaned in, absorbing every word. Questions were met with precise answers, doubts dissolved under the weight of facts and expertise. I wasn't just filling in, I was leading. By the time I finished, the room was electric with renewed confidence. The board members nodded appreciatively, their respect unmistakable. It was clear, this project was no longer a gamble but a calculated investment with a leader who knew exactly what she was doing. In that moment, I wasn't just salvaging a meeting. I was reclaiming my place, asserting my worth, and turning the tide in a battle that was far from over. As I wrapped up the presentation, a wave of calm determination settled over me. This wasn't just about seizing an opportunity, it was the culmination of years of preparation, grit, and a steadfast refusal to be sidelined. I've learned that intelligence alone isn't enough. It's the quiet, relentless strength within, the ability to stay composed under pressure, to anticipate every move, that truly makes the difference. Every late night spent analyzing data, every strategic plan crafted in solitude, had led to this moment. Preparation became my shield and my weapon. While others schemed in shadows, I built a fortress of facts and confidence. It's easy to underestimate how much power lies in being ready, in knowing your ground better than anyone else. This victory wasn't a stroke of luck. It was the payoff of resilience, foresight, and mental toughness. And it's a lesson I carry with me. No matter the odds, with the right preparation and inner strength, you can turn any situation in your favor. While the meeting unfolded, I was recording everything discreetly. Every stumble, every uneasy glance, every slip that hinted at the deeper betrayal beneath the surface. This wasn't just a power play. It was a calculated attempt to erase me from everything my family had built. But I wasn't alone in this fight. I reached out to Maya, an old ally and a brilliant hacker whose skills I trusted implicitly. She was my secret weapon against the Obsidian Circle, a shadowy cabal manipulating the Southwest's real estate market from behind the scenes. Maya dove into their digital footprints, peeling back layers of encrypted emails, forged documents, and covert messages between Bianca, Sage, and other key players. With every piece of evidence she uncovered, my case grew stronger, not just against my stepfamily, but against a dangerous network bent on exploiting communities for profit. Together, we were weaving a web of truth, preparing to expose the lies and corruption that had been festering beneath the polished surface. This wasn't just personal revenge anymore, it was a fight for justice on a much larger scale. There was a strange sweetness that settled over me as the pieces started to fall into place. The knowledge that every deceit, every underhanded move Bianca and her allies made, was being quietly dismantled. It was intoxicating. Revenge had a way of fueling my fire, sharpening my focus. But beneath that thrill was a layer of cold caution. I wasn't dealing with ordinary family drama anymore. The Obsidian Circle was a well-oiled machine, ruthless and far-reaching. One wrong step could unravel everything, or worse, put me in real danger. So while the taste of vindication lingered like the finest wine, I tempered it with calculated patience. Every move had to be precise, every reveal timed perfectly. This was no longer just about reclaiming what was mine. It was about surviving and dismantling a dark empire from the inside out. I was playing a high-stakes game, and I intended to win. In a fight this complex, going it alone wasn't an option. I realized early on that the power of allies and cutting-edge technology would be my greatest weapons. Maya, with her hacking skills and insider knowledge, was more than just a partner. She was my lifeline into the shadows where the Obsidian Circle operated. We combined her digital expertise with my analytical mind, sifting through mountains of encrypted messages, hidden emails, and falsified documents. Each byte of data was a potential breakthrough, a piece of the puzzle that could expose their web of lies. But it wasn't just about gathering evidence. It was about staying one step ahead, using secure communication channels, encrypted backups, and real-time monitoring to protect ourselves and keep the pressure on. In this legal battlefield, technology wasn't just a tool, it was armor. And having trustworthy allies meant I wasn't just fighting for myself, but for justice. Together, we were turning the tide. Jordan and Maya didn't just stop at gathering evidence. They took the fight to the authorities. They partnered closely with law enforcement agencies, including the FBI's Cybercrime Division, launching a painstaking investigation that stretched over months. Together, they exposed the Obsidian Circle for what it truly was: a sophisticated criminal syndicate specializing in high-tech real estate manipulation and money laundering across the Southwest. Their reach was vast, using shell companies, encrypted networks, and insider connections to rig markets and funnel illicit funds through seemingly legitimate investments. Every piece of digital evidence Jordan and Maya uncovered became a thread unraveling the organization's intricate web. The authorities moved carefully, ensuring every move was airtight, building a case that would stand up in court. This wasn't just a battle for family legacy anymore. It was a full-scale takedown of a powerful, shadowy empire thriving on corruption and deceit. Jordan felt the weight of the moment, knowing that this fight was bigger than him, a fight for justice that could change the entire landscape. The culmination of months of relentless investigation arrived in the form of a massive, coordinated raid. Undercover agents, cybercrime specialists, and local law enforcement converged simultaneously on multiple locations tied to the Obsidian Circle. Early one morning, the silence of the desert was shattered by the roar of helicopters and the flashing lights of police vehicles. SWAT teams stormed luxury estates, office complexes, and hidden safe houses, catching the syndicate's leaders off guard. Jordan watched from a secure location as news flooded in. Top executives, financial masterminds, and key operatives were being handcuffed and led away. The organization's once impenetrable network was unraveling by the hour. The Obsidian Circle's grip on the real estate market and money laundering schemes was broken. Its sprawling influence collapsed almost overnight, sending shockwaves through the industry and bringing a new dawn of transparency and justice. For Jordan, it was more than a victory. It was the validation of his perseverance, the ultimate payback against those who tried to destroy him and steal his inheritance. This victory was a testament not just to legal skill or technology, but to an unbreakable will. Jordan's journey showed that no matter how dark and deep the corruption runs, steadfast determination can shine through. But more importantly, it was a reminder that true strength comes from community, people coming together to expose wrongdoing and demand accountability. Jordan wasn't alone in this fight. Allies like Maya, dedicated investigators, and even everyday citizens refusing to turn a blind eye made all the difference. In the face of powerful adversaries, it's easy to feel small and helpless. But Jordan's story proves that when individuals unite with courage and conviction, they can dismantle even the most insidious networks. This wasn't just personal revenge, it was justice served through collective action and unwavering spirit. Just when it seemed the battle was won, Jordan uncovered a darker truth. Bianca and Sage weren't the masterminds after all, they were mere pawns in a much larger game. Behind the scenes, a shadowy multinational corporation was pulling strings, quietly manipulating high-value land deals around the world. This corporate giant thrived on secrecy and influence, using subsidiaries and proxy players like Bianca and Sage to conceal its reach. Jordan's fight wasn't just against a scheming stepfamily or a secret society. It was a battle against a powerful global force, exploiting resources and communities for profit. Realizing the stakes were far higher than he imagined only fueled Jordan's resolve. He knew exposing this hidden empire would require every ounce of his intelligence, allies, and courage. The war was far from over. But now, Jordan was prepared to face the true puppeteers, ready to dismantle their empire from the inside out. As I dug deeper into the mess, the scope of what I was up against hit me hard. This wasn't just some local family feud anymore. Bianca, Sage, they were just the surface. Beneath it all was a multinational corporation pulling strings across continents, with corrupt officials, shadowy shell companies, and secret offshore accounts. I realized I couldn't fight this alone. So I reached out beyond my circle, connecting with international watchdog groups, anti-corruption agencies, and fearless investigative journalists who specialize in taking down giants like this. Forming these alliances wasn't just about my personal revenge anymore. It became a fight to expose the truth and protect entire communities from getting crushed under these hidden power plays. The road ahead is dangerous and uncertain, but I'm more determined than ever. With my new allies by my side, I'm ready to shine a bright light on this corrupt empire and make sure nobody gets away with it. What started as a personal battle to reclaim what was rightfully mine quickly grew into something much bigger. The deeper I peeled back the layers, the clearer it became that this tangled web of greed and deception stretched far beyond my family or our company. I found myself standing at the crossroads of a global struggle, facing off against corrupt power brokers who manipulate entire markets, exploit vulnerable communities, and evade justice behind walls of secrecy. This wasn't just about property or inheritance anymore. It was about shining a light on systemic corruption and demanding accountability from those who believe they're untouchable. I teamed up with investigative journalists, nonprofit watchdogs, and international law enforcement agencies, building a coalition dedicated to exposing these crimes and fighting for the people who suffer in silence. Every day brought new challenges, threats, legal battles, and the pressure to keep going when it felt easier to walk away. But the stakes were too high to quit. I realized my fight had evolved into a mission to make the world a fairer place, not just for me, but for everyone caught in the crossfire of corruption and injustice. The road ahead is long and uncertain, but I'm ready to keep pushing. Because sometimes, the greatest acts of revenge aren't just about winning back what's lost. They're about changing the system that allowed the betrayal in the first place. In facing these overwhelming powers, I came to understand that justice isn't some abstract ideal handed down from above. It's a responsibility each of us must own, especially when the system seems rigged in favor of the powerful. It's easy to feel small and powerless when you're up against multinational corporations, shadowy organizations, or entrenched elites. But justice demands more than passive hope. It calls for courage, persistence, and unwavering integrity. I realized that my fight wasn't just about reclaiming my family's legacy or protecting a business. It was about standing up to the forces that exploit, manipulate, and silence people on a massive scale. Each step I took, every piece of evidence uncovered, wasn't just a win for me, but a statement that no one is above accountability, not even those with the deepest pockets or the most influence. This journey taught me that personal responsibility matters. It's not enough to be angry or feel wronged, you have to act. You have to be the change, the voice, the force that pushes back. In this fight, justice became personal. It became about honoring those who came before me, protecting those who come after, and demanding a future where power isn't wielded as a weapon, but as a tool for fairness and progress. The weight of this responsibility is heavy. But I carry it willingly, knowing that true justice is born not from revenge alone, but from the relentless pursuit of truth and the courage to hold the mighty accountable. Looking back on everything I've endured, I realize that the most important lessons came from the hardest battles. Betrayal and injustice can feel like insurmountable walls, but vigilance, the strength of a sharp mind, and unwavering persistence are the keys that allow us to break through. These qualities aren't just abstract ideas. They're the very tools that helped me turn the darkest chapters of my life into stories of triumph and growth. Revenge is often misunderstood. It's not about causing harm or destruction. It's about reclaiming what was taken from you. It's about rising from the ashes of betrayal, stronger and more determined than ever before. Revenge is a rebirth, a chance to take back control over your life, your story, and your future. It's about standing tall when others try to bury you and proving that your spirit cannot be broken. To everyone watching, I urge you to stand up and protect your rights, your dignity, and your truth, whether that's within your family, your workplace, or your broader community. Establish clear and healthy boundaries. Know your worth and never allow anyone to diminish your value or silence your voice. Your peace of mind and self-respect depend on it. But this fight isn't meant to be fought alone. That's why it's crucial to build a strong, supportive community, a network of people who have been hurt, betrayed, or wronged, but who refuse to be defeated. Together, we can create a safe space where we lift each other up, share our stories, and inspire resilience. We can remind one another that no matter how deep the wounds, healing and empowerment are possible. Remember, the journey to justice, healing, and personal growth is never easy or straightforward. It requires courage to face the pain, wisdom to learn from it, and strength to keep moving forward. But if we stand united, we can transform pain into power and setbacks into unforgettable comebacks. So let this story be more than just a tale of revenge. Let it be a beacon of hope, a call to action, and a testament to the unbreakable human spirit. Rise up, take back your power, and never stop fighting for the life and legacy you deserve.